Hello, my name is Sheila and our house looks over to North Hill. I've lived, worked and worshipped in Minehead for over 30 years. My, how time flies when you're having fun. The reading I've chosen is Psalm 121. I lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your coming and your going, both now and forevermore. As I said, our house looks to North Hill at the back and the sea to the front. I've always loved walking in hill country and have often walked on the hill, although we now mainly drive and sit with a picnic. As I look over the moor, I feel at one with God's hand working with mankind to create the landscape. We have wild horses, buzzards, rabbits, heather and gorse and so much more to be thankful for. I was a sickly child, as so many children were, who were born during or just after World War II when food was still in short supply, although I never felt hungry as Dad grew fruit and veg on his allotment and my grandparents had an apple tree in their garden which we robbed each year. There was a farm at the end of the lane where we lived, so milk and eggs never seemed to be a problem either. But when I was about 8 or 9, I had a fear that I would die in my sleep, which made bedtime a bit of a trial for me. It was at this stage I began to wonder what life was all about, and my search for God began. I attended a Church of England junior school in Dunstable, which was at that time a small market town, but with a huge history in the heart of the Chiltern Hills. And I often walked in those hills as well, picking bluebells and other wildflowers as the seasons changed. The school was on the opposite side of the road to the Priory Church of St Peter, a wonderful Norman church which had been a friary in the 1400s. I was quite used to going to church, as the whole school did at least twice a term, but we didn't go as a family. However, I felt that this type of worship was too formal and difficult to understand, and I never felt at ease, especially after being locked in one afternoon, after one of my usual visits on my way home to have a little peace and quiet after the noise of the school day. The verger had locked up on his way home, not realising that I was in the church. Luckily for me, he had forgotten to do something and came back within a few minutes, so I lived to tell the tale. It was at this stage that I began looking at other denominations. I went one evening to an evangelical church, but was asked to leave because while singing This Little Light of Mine, I had the audacity to shine my torch. I decided this church was not for me either. I found it wasn't always easy to find a welcoming church, especially as a lone child. However, at this time, one of my uncles was an Ebenezer Baptist minister, so I decided to give their Sunday school a try. And this is where I first came across Psalm 121. I had to learn it by heart, something I've always found very difficult to do. I also find the Old Testament in general hard to understand, with its continual wars and disagreements, perhaps a bit like life now. I've also never been very good at quoting chapter and verse of Bible phrases, or even being able to remember where to find passages that I know and love. I have a simple faith. I'm no theologian, but I find the Bible intriguing, as you can read the same passage several times, and it often gives a different message, or sometimes none at all. However, this psalm is not difficult to understand and has a simple message. It sums up God's love for me and for you. It tells us that he's always there, like a conscientious father. He protects us from all harm as he watches over our lives, which I'm sure in the present climate may be difficult to grasp. But when I was 8, it was just what I needed to hear, and still need to hear today. We're all having a horrid time at the moment. 2020 has hardly been a good year. As Advent and the Christmas season approach, maybe the shops will still be closed and some food supplies that we usually buy at this time of the year will be in short supply or even unavailable. But I doubt I will go hungry. Maybe people will not have the money to spend because of loss of income. Maybe they're on furlough still. But will that really matter? Perhaps it will give us the opportunity to get back to the real story that Christmas brings us and that this psalm brings us, and accept the love that God gives us as a gift and love him back. I'd like to end with a prayer from the Iona community. Oh God, you know us better than we know ourselves. You know our being and our doing. As we prepare for Advent and then Christmas, help us to spring clean our lives. At this time when we may not be able to meet together, help us to deepen our relationship to you, to others, and to ourselves. Take our hands and lead us on a journey. Amen.